Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming for our Illinois Squash yoga sessions. We do these every week live on Sundays, and then I'll share the recordings on YouTube so you can try out different themes at your own. So today I wanted to focus on shoulders and back, where you can like hold a lot of your stress, or if you've been working on a computer or on your phone, you can start to feel a lot of weight there. And especially for squash, you can't take a nice swing if you're all tight in your shoulders, right? If you want to be able to go for that volley, you need to be able to open up in your shoulders. So I think this is a nice thing to focus on if you're looking to get back into squash, or just in general, having nice open shoulders is really good. So we're just going to start getting comfortable on your mats. Feel free to have like a towel folded up or a blanket, and get comfortable. And if you feel good, feel free to close your eyes and just like listen to my voice. And we're going to just take a couple of deep breaths and thank yourself for coming to the mat and focusing on your body and just listening to your body and doing what feels good. So we'll just be here for a couple of breaths. And you can start to do little circles with your nose, just starting to get the neck a little bit more mobile. And go at your own pace, breathing in and out. And then we'll change the direction of your circles. And we'll start to scan down, do some shoulder circles, bringing your shoulders up and then back down. And I can feel some creakiness, but really thinking about my shoulder blades. And then go in the other direction. And nice and slow, starting to feel heat. Adding on, you can bring your hands to your shoulders and bring your elbows to touch, and you'll feel your shoulder blades really open up. Breathing in and then doing some circles with your elbows. This really taps into your shoulder blades a little bit more than just the shoulder rolls. Trying to bring your elbows to touch, but it definitely can feel a little bit tighter, especially as we're just starting. And going the other direction, going at your own pace. Nice. And then we'll bring our hands out and we'll bring them up overhead. And this can already start to be a little hard if you're tight in the shoulders. So just do a couple to warm up here. Breathing in, bringing your hands up, and breathing out, bringing them down. And then the next time you're up in the air, you can either hold on to your left wrist or just have your right arm down, depending on what you prefer. And then just tip over with that left arm over to the right. You should feel a nice stretch down the side body. Breathing in and then coming back to neutral. Bringing your arms up. You can either grab onto the right wrist, or I just prefer to have my left hand down and then tipping over to the right. Breathing in and out. Nice. We'll do that one more time at your own pace. Breathing in and over to one side. And then switching. We'll do a lot more of these from tabletop position and other positions. So, you can always come back if you prefer to be seated. And then now we'll take our left arm over to our right knee. We'll do a little twist. If you have a block or anything, you can bring that behind you to try and keep yourself upright, but only go as far as comfortable. Breathing in and out. As you breathe out, it can help you melt and twist a little bit further. And breathe into the twist can really help you get through something that might be a little tight. Come back to center. can do a little shoulder roll before we switch to the other side. So then bring your right arm to your left knee and twist. Melting and twisting to wherever your range is comfortable. You can look over the shoulder if you'd like, but just keep your neck neutral if that's a little tight for you. And then while we're seated and you can kind of see the screen, I'll do a couple of like terms that I'm going to use. That way when we're on the floor, you don't have to look up. So one thing I want you to think about is, you know, bringing your arms out, and you'll see your shoulder blades kind of open and your shoulders come forward. Try and tuck those in. So I'll do a side pose, bringing them out, tuck those in. So when we're in some of those poses, you want to think about hugging your shoulders back and bringing your shoulder blades together. So just do a couple of those, just forward and back. And when we're in some of these lunges, this will help you, you know, open up your shoulders. So just do a couple of those. Same thing, if your arms are out, you can have your shoulder blades open, or you can kind of tuck your shoulder blades together. So just feeling, you know, what is most comfortable, but if you're tight, you can kind of see how you might round your back and open your shoulder blades versus being upright and having your chest open. And then one other thing to think about is when we're in tabletop, it's really easy to just like dump into your arms and hurt you can have some pressure on your wrists. Same thing, bringing your shoulders together, and you can think about your wrists opening jars, like pointing outwards, so that your elbow crease is open versus like closed or collapsed. So just think about that. I can really already, when I'm just like twisting my arms open, I can feel my shoulder blades activating. So these are just some things to think about. And now that we've kind of warmed up and we've been seated for a little bit, now we'll come into a tabletop and we'll do a couple of shoulder stretches. Feel free to have your blanket to pad your knees if you prefer. And from the tabletop, we'll just start to do a couple of cat-cows. So when you breathe in, you can bring your shoulder blades open. And then when you breathe out, you can bring your belly down. Start to feel those shoulder blades opening and closing. Thinking about your fingers gripping the mat and keeping active. Going at your own pace with these cat-cows. You can bring some circles if you like. Doesn't have to always be static and linear. Finding what feels good. Some other things that you can think about, if you'd like, for the wrist, you can rotate your hand so that the fingertips are facing your body or out. And then you can start to do little circles. Only go as far on your wrist as feels comfortable. So it might just be out 90 degrees or fingertips all the way back. Do circles in both directions. And then bring that hand back and do the other hand. You can always do these at the same time, but it might be a little intense. So go at your own pace. Just opening up your hands if you've been typing a lot or gripping or doing pull-ups or push-ups. It's nice to open up your forearms as well as your shoulders. And then come back to your neutral tabletop position. Breathing in and out. And we'll kick our left foot back. You can start to pulse a little bit, waking up that ankle and that calf. You can even do circles again if you like for your wrists, just playing around. And then we'll bring our left foot up into the air and slide it over to the right. So now our left foot is over by the right side of our mat. You can look over your right shoulder and you'll feel a side body stretch all along your left side. Breathing in and out. And you can come back to a straight foot back. You can bring that left leg back up into the air, doing some little circles for your hips. Even though we're focusing our shoulders, you want to have that foundation. Circles in the other way. You can bend the left leg so that your left foot is up towards the ceiling. You can do little pulses in the air. Even do little hip circles if you like. And then in the other direction. Nice. Then bring your left foot back down to the ground. You'll tip your foot so that it's down on the ground rather than on your toes. You'll start to twist your hips so that they're parallel to the wall, opening up your chest. And then you can either bring your left arm into the sky or to your hip, whatever feels more comfortable. Breathing in and out. This is still feeling like a side body stretch. You can bring the left fingers over your head, and then you'll start to feel it into your arm, reaching, just like in squash, your racket is an extension of your arm. Here you're making an extension from your fingers all the way to your toes. Breathing in and out. We'll do a couple little circles with the arm in both directions. And then come back down to a neutral tabletop. And we had that left arm. We'll thread the needle through the opening and we'll bring our left ear towards the mat. Here you can bring a pillow or anything if you want to change the angle. And then you can bring that right arm out straight or for a bind. But we're here opening up our left shoulder blade. We'll be here for 5 breaths, so get yourself comfortable. And then breathe in to deepen the stretch. You can bump your hips over to the left and you'll feel that lengthen on the left side. Feel free to move around to find the right angle for you. We'll be here for another breath. Nice. And pushing into your right hand, bringing that left arm back up for the counter stretch. And back down to that neutral tabletop. You can do some shoulder rolls, hip rolls to set up for the other side. So we'll do that same thing again. Now kicking back our right foot, rocking back and forth just to wake up the ankle and the calf. You can do circles with the wrists. And then we'll lift that right foot up in the air and bring it over to the left side of your mat. And then you can look over your left shoulder to feel that stretch all the way down your right side. Breathing in and out. And then we'll return that right foot just back straight behind you. We'll levitate it in the air. You can do some little circles to wake up the hamstring and the hip. You can go the other direction. And then you can bend that right leg so that your right knee or your right foot is towards the ceiling. Do some little pulses. Really small movements just to wake up various areas of the body. You can do some hip circles by just rolling the knee, going in both directions. And then bringing that right foot back out straight. So instead of now being on the toes, you'll bring the foot down so that the heel is on the mat and the toes are on the mat. And as you do that, you'll start to roll your hips towards the parallel to the wall, opening up your shoulders. You can crawl your fingertips up or keeping them on the hip if you prefer. Breathing in, feeling tall. You can bring that right arm over the head and you'll feel that stretch from your right toes to your right fingers. Breathing in, I think of this as when my foot's on the tee and I'm reaching out to get that shot. Then do some little arm circles. Going in both directions, switching sides. Nice. Breathing back up straight, and then you'll start to come down back towards a neutral tabletop, and you can thread that right arm through the opening, bringing your right ear towards the mat or to your prop. Getting yourself set up here, since we'll be for a couple of breaths. You can either bring your left arm for a bind or out. Get yourself comfortable. And then we'll be here for 5 breaths. You can deepen the stretch by bumping your hips to the right to feel that twist and that lengthening in your side body. We'll be here for 1 more breath. Feel free to change your arm if you prefer. And then push into that left arm to help you unwind, bringing that right arm back up for the counter stretch. And then coming back to a neutral tabletop. We'll do another arm opener, and it's a puppy dog pose. I'll show you. So your hands are still out in front of you like a tabletop. Your knees are underneath your hips. Start to walk your hands out, and you'll start to bring your chest down. Here you can definitely have a prop if you have a pillow, or if you feel comfortable, you can start to bring your forearms to the mat. So my hips are over my knees, and then I start to melt down my chest. You can really feel this in your biceps, in your shoulder blades. Get yourself comfortable. Maybe grab that prop if you want to have a pillow under your forehead. These are things you can do later on against a wall if you prefer. Breathing in, feeling that space in your armpits. Make sure you're not just like collapsing your belly. Keep your back nice and connected and engaged with your core, but just melting at the top of your back. We'll be here for 5 breaths. If it's hard to keep your forearms, you can definitely readjust. Feel free to bring your elbows closer to your ears. You can bring your hands in prayer, bring them up. Find what feels good for your arms. We'll be here for 3 more breaths. Start to bring your hands back connected to the mat. You can start to walk your hands back into that tabletop. That's a big chest opener. You can do the counter stretch by bringing your shoulder blades up to the sky. And now we're going to come into a downward dog. You can do that by reconnecting with your tabletop and hovering your knees, breathing in, and then pushing your heels back. After that puppy dog pose, downward dog, you can start to pedal your feet. Breathing in. That's really intense on your shoulders. You can start to walk your hands or your feet towards your hands so you come into a forward fold. Just hanging there, maybe shaking your head, yes and no. You can clasp your elbows. Feel free to twist your body in this hanging position. You'll bring your hands back towards the mat, and then you'll do a flat back by bringing your hands into your shins, into your thighs, airplane arms, whatever feels good. Then come back down just to that hanging forward fold, and slowly, 1 vertebrae at a time, we'll come to standing. Go really slow. This should feel really nice after that puppy dog where we were melting our chest forward. Now you're doing the opposite. Just rolling up. Nice. Once you get to the top of the mat, You can do some shoulder circles, getting comfortable. Now we're not on the mat anymore. Breathing your hands up in the air. You can grab that left wrist and tip over to the side. Coming back to neutral, switching hands. So now your left wrist holds your right arm. You tip towards the left. Breathing in and letting your arms come back down. Do a couple more shoulder shrugs. We'll widen our stance slightly. And we'll start to just do some swaying with our arms, right? We just did a whole bunch of bends with our back. So just do some twists. Doesn't really have to look like anything. You can slap yourself with your hand on the opposite side. You can pretend to be swinging a squash racket, whatever you like, just to kind of nicely massage the spine. Going at your own pace with your breath. And this is just a nice kind of rest after some of those poses. You'll start to widen your hips, your feet, sorry. So they're a little bit further than hips distance. And then you can start to bend your knees. So you're coming into a really wide-legged squat and bring your hands to your knees. Try not to dump so that your shoulders are next to your ears. Try to stay pretty tall. If that's hard, definitely change the stance. But you'll start to then tip one of your shoulders forward. So I tip my left shoulders forward and I can feel that stretch through my side. Breathing in and out and deepening. Then you can switch sides. So then I'm bringing my right shoulder forward. I'm kind of looking back over my left shoulder. Breathing in and out. Do that a couple more times at your own pace. Really pushing into your legs so you have a good foundation so that you can then twist in your upper body. Nice. And then bring your feet back parallel, push into your feet, bring your arms up. This is goddess pose or star pose. You can twinkle your fingers. Should feel really nice after all of that, feel really big. And then we'll bring our arms down. You'll clasp your arms behind your back. And then with your feet a little hip wider than hip distance, you'll start to tip forward and go only as far as feels comfortable. You'll bring your arms up towards the sky for another little shoulder opener. Don't worry about how far you're going. Just feel where you're getting that stretch in your shoulders. And I also feel it in my hamstrings. Breathing in and out. Then pushing your knuckles towards the sky will help you bring yourself back up. You can do that star pose again if that feels good. And then we'll do a couple of warrior positions. So already my feet are hip distance apart. I'm going to point my left toes towards the front of my mat. And I'm going to bring my right toes to be at a 90-degree angle. So we're setting up for warrior. Sometimes you might be a little bit wider apart when you come into this, but this is a nice distance. And we'll bring our left leg to bend. So we're in that warrior pose. You can have your hands out. Breathing in and out. My shoulders are above my hips, which are in the center of my feet. I'm really active, again, with my arms, pulling them in so my shoulder blades are together. Breathing in, and then start to tip your arms forward, and then bring your left arm to your left knee. And you can swing that right arm up over your head. So we've kind of done this pose in lots of different directions on the mat, on the floor, and now standing. And one thing to think about is bring your hand out in front of you and then bring the shoulder back before you twist open. That should help you, have your shoulder not too close to your ear. Breathing in and out. slowly come back up, pushing into your feet back to that warrior. And we'll reverse our warrior into a humble warrior. So you'll bring your left arm over and you can bring your right arm to your thigh, or you can have it open.
I always wonder why this is called a humble warrior.
No idea. I feel like there's all sorts of warriors. And then you can come back to this warrior two, and then straighten that front leg, bring the toes back to face forward. That should feel really nice. And bring your arms up for goddess. And then we'll try the other side. Feel free to, like, if your arms are feeling pretty tired, to swing them out. You can give yourself a big hug before we switch sides. So now we'll point our right toes towards the back of our mat, and we'll bring our left toes to about a 90-degree angle. You'll start to bend that right knee over your right foot, so don't go too far. Feel free to change the angle of the distance between your feet to what feels comfortable. Then bring your hands out, breathing in. Again, bringing those shoulder blades back. Then tip forward. You can bring that right elbow to the right knee, and then swing that left arm over your ear. Thinking about it again, if you want, you can bring your left arm out, tuck that shoulder blade back before you open up to keep lots of space between your shoulder and ear. Breathing in and out, keeping my hands very active so that I'm like reaching my left fingertips in the air, connecting all the way back with my left toes. Breathing in, and then we'll come back up to warrior and humble warrior or reverse warrior. I put my left arm on my left leg and my right arm back up, keeping a nice bend in my front leg still. Breathing in, coming back to warrior, straightening my leg in the front, pointing my toes back to center. Breathing in for goddess, star pose. Then you can kind of come back, your feet under your hips, distance apart, roll your shoulders, kind of stretch out. After all of that work in your shoulders, it's really nice. And now we're going to come back down to the mat. So breathing in, bring your hands overhead. We're going to swan dive back down into a forward fold. Breathing in and out. You can do another flat back, bringing your hands up and then back down, and walk your hands out or your feet out to come into a plank. Breathing in, and then we'll slowly lower down to our bellies. And here if you have that blanket, you can rearrange it so that you're laying on it in a comfortable manner. And from laying on our bellies, we'll do one more shoulder opener before we get into Shavasana. So for this shoulder opener, you're laying on your mat. You can either have your left arm out in a T or your left arm out in a cactus, football field, post, goal, whatever it's called. And then we'll slowly start to roll onto our left hip and find what feels good in that arm. So my left arm is out straight or in that cactus pose. I'm laying on my left hip. My left ear is kind of opening. You can bring the right foot up if that feels good to kind of intensify the stretch, or if it's already a lot, just bring the knees down on top of one another. This is really opening up the front of my chest and my shoulder. You can bring the right arm anywhere that feels good. If you want to intensify, you can bring it behind you for a bind. If you want to less intense, just bring it out in front of you to support. We'll be here for 5 breaths. And then slowly with control, bring that right arm back down. Slowly bring your hips back towards the mat for laying on your belly before we switch to the other side. So whatever arm variation you liked on the left, you can either have it out into a T or in that cactus arm. Start to roll onto your right hip, onto that right ear. Get your knees either right underneath each other, or you can bring that left knee up if you want to intensify. Breathing in and out, finding what feels good with the arms and the legs, and then we'll be here for 5 breaths. And slowly start to bring your left hand back down and roll your hips back down towards the mat. And we're just gonna roll over onto our backs. So get there nice and slow. Get your blanket or your towel in order. Now we're just laying on our backs. If you have any tightness in your lower back, feel free to bend the knees. Your feet can be mat distance apart and your knees can kind of fold in. We'll do one more bicep stretch. So you're gonna take your left arm and you're gonna bend it so that your hand is going behind your neck. And you can bring that left hand kind of down your neck as far as feels comfortable, and your elbow is next to your ear. Once you get into a comfortable position where your left arm is bent, your elbow is near your ear, and your hand is behind your back, kind of facing up, you can give yourself a little neck massage, kind of get into a comfortable position. If you'd like to intensify this, you can take your right arm to your right elbow to open up and deepen. Or if this is already enough, feel free to just stay with that right hand on your belly. Breathing in and out. We'll be here for 5 breaths. And when I breathe in, I really feel this in my bicep and my underarm. It's really nice to get at the shoulders from every angle. Breathing in, you'll start to walk your hands back up your neck. You can give yourself a little massage of the neck. Then bring that left arm out and we'll switch to the other side. You could have done these at the same time, but I think that's a little intense. But if you're doing this again, feel free to try that. But now we'll take our right arm, we'll bend at the elbow, start to put your right hand behind your neck, give yourself a little massage, walk your fingers down as far as feels comfortable. You can bring the left hand to the elbow if you'd like to intensify, or if that's a lot, just bring it to your belly. Once you get into that position and you're feeling the stretch along your bicep and your arm, we'll be here for 5 breaths. Nice. Start to walk your fingers back up your neck. You can give it a little massage. And then once you get the fingers out, you'll bring your arms out into a T and then give yourself a big hug, breathing in and out. You'll bring your knees into your chest, and if you can, feel free to hug them or just put your hands on the knees. We'll do a couple of little knee circles, giving yourself a little massage on the lower back against the mat. Breathing in and going in both directions with your circles. We'll come into a supine twist. You can come into any sort of variation. So if you like, you can cross your right leg over your left if you want to intensify it, or just keep your knees right on top of one another. Bring your hands to the knees and start to rock them to the left. You'll keep your shoulders on the mat. You can have your hands out in a T or in that cactus football goal position, or you can keep the left hand on the knees to guide them. They do not need to come to the mat. I like having my feet crossed so that it kind of supports them. And once you get into a comfortable position, make sure your shoulders are towards the mat. You can look over your right shoulder to twist fully. We'll be here for 5 breaths. On your next inhale, take a big inhale. And on the exhale, use that bringing of the breath out to bring yourself back up. You can uncross your legs if they were crossed. You can do a couple more knee circles or bring yourself into a tiny ball for a little hug before we switch sides. If you did the knee cross on the other side, bring your left leg over the right. Or if you didn't do that, just start to tip your knees over to the right side. Nice and slow. Bringing your shoulders towards the mat. Again, you can bring your hands out in a T for that cactus. Looking over the left shoulder. Just wringing out your body. We'll be here for 5 breaths. On your next inhale, take a big breath in. And on the exhale, use that to bring yourself back to center. You can uncross your feet if they were crossed. And come into any final poses that you like. If you like, you can come into a happy baby by taking the outside of your feet. If this is already bringing your tail off the mat, kind of just hold the backs of your thighs so that you can keep your back all on the mat and your shoulders down. Only come as far as you'd like. If you want to intensify it and you're able to keep your back on the ground, you can start to straighten a foot. But only go as far as you like. You can rock or be static. Any final poses or positions you'd like to take before we're in Shavasana? You can either come into a corpse pose, fully with your legs straight out. If you have any pinching in your lower back, feel free to bend the knees. If you want some more hip opening, you can bring your feet together. Get yourself into that final pose that you'd like to come in for that final rest. Once you get there, close your eyes. Take a deep breath in, sigh it all out, melt into your mat. Do a little body scan. Relax the skin of your face. Don't have any tension in your jaw if you're clenching. Start to relax going down your body, letting your shoulders be heavy, letting your hips be heavy. We'll be here for 7 breaths. You can stay here as long as you want, but if you're ready to guide yourself out, keeping your eyes closed, just start to bring little movements to your toes. With your fingers, you can play the piano on your belly. You can start to rock your head from side to side, nice and slow. You can bring your hands to the back of your neck if you want to give yourself a little massage. And then start to roll over to one side, bringing your arm underneath your head as a pillow. Breathing in, and then bring yourself back up nice and slow to a seat. You can keep your eyes closed. You can do a couple of shoulder circles. Breathing in, you can bring your hands to prayer. Bowing your head, feeling that nice stretch along your neck and your back. Thanking yourself for taking this time on your mat. Thank you for letting me guide you. Namaste. Thank you, everybody. I hope you have a good rest of your day